What if we could show you how to create an additional income stream that feels inspiring to you and leverages not only off your passions, but your zone of genius? Head over to 𝗦𝗢𝗔𝗟𝗦/side hustle to download our free side hustle guide, a 40-page guide where we help you not only come up with your business idea, but help you set your rate, find your potential customers, help make your first few sales, come up with your point of difference, and ensure you have a profitable business that you can scale to create a life and career by design.
Babes Talking Business, our podcast, is the sister brand to Babes in Business. It's our passion project geared towards female entrepreneurs, professional women, side hustlers, those with a day job, and those full-time mamas striving to build their empire on the side, whether it's a traditional or non-traditional business, investments, startup, companies, or online social media influencers.
Our podcast is a safe place where women can be vulnerable, honest, and tune in to be educated and supported to learn about the ins and outs of business, the highs and lows, and feel comfortable to talk about finances and multiple streams of income, along with the lingo that often comes with it that intimidates and prevents a lot of us women from approaching these subjects altogether.
We not only mentor and encourage fellow entrepreneurs tuning in to build their own successful businesses, but teach them how to build confidence in themselves, reconnect with their why, let go of jealousy, and ultimately learn the power in connection, because at the end of the day, that is what life and business is all about.
This is a no BS podcast where we are committed to showing you what really happens behind the scenes of businesses' pretty highlight reels, so you can be reassured you are not the only one in the trenches, and we can hopefully empower you with ideas on how to run your life and business in a way that feels energizing, inspiring, and authentic to you and your mission.
We are your hosts. I'm 𝗦𝗢𝗔𝗟𝗦 Thompson, and one of my biggest passions and missions in life is to revolutionize the way that women create abundance, to show you can really have it all and create your next level, wildest dreams whilst being in a total state of ease and flow. I'm a blogger, a coach and mentor to thousands of women around the world, a professional network marketer, a course creator, and above all, I'm just your everyday girl next door.
And I am 𝗦𝗢𝗔𝗟𝗦. I'm a published author, life and mindset coach, and professional network marketer. When I was studying my psychology degree, I stumbled across the term life above zero, which became my personal and professional mission, to inspire others to create a life that they love, instead of just settling for mediocrity and just doing what society expects you to do. I love helping women find clarity and fulfillment in their lives, relationships, and careers. So, on that note, let's talk business.
Welcome to episode 55 of the BTB podcast. Today, we are going to be flexing that mindset of steel and going and taking it to the gym and growing it, because we are going to be talking about how to just not care about what anybody thinks about you. We are going to be sharing our top 4 tips that we use to help us get past any of the negativity or any of the opinions that come from, well, just, let's face it, owning a business. When you start a business, when you start a side hustle, when you have a bright idea, when you start going against the grain and doing something out of the norm, when you start shining a little bit more than other people, when you start to gain momentum and have success, let's face it, people around you are going to say things about you, right? So this episode is going to help you become inspired and not let anybody else's opinion of you cloud your vision and your mission and what you're here to do on this planet. So we are so excited. Now, don't forget, every single episode comes with a freebie downloadable. So if you head over to www.babesinbusiness.net/podcast/55, you are going to be able to download the downloadable cheat sheet that goes hand in hand with this podcast episode. So just in case you're at the gym doing your thing, or you are driving or whatever, you don't have to stop and write notes in your notes section of your phone. You can literally just download the downloadable and it's all there for you. Okay, let's get straight into it. You are going to love this episode. Let's not care about what anybody thinks. Hey, let's do it. Okay. Hey, Lozzie.
Hey, Shan.
We're doing a podcast really different today. We're actually not next to each other.
No, and we think we have organized or got the technology right.
Oh, gosh. I hope so. I reckon we start every single episode wondering.
Technology.
Oh, my gosh. Well, I am super excited about this episode because the reason why we thought of doing it was because so many of the girls that we mentor in business are challenged with this, and it's, I guess caring what other people think and having other people's opinions put a stop in their tracks. And so we thought we'd do a podcast episode on it.
Yeah, and I think we decided that this series or this season, we wanted to kind of just share more value from us, I guess, what we're personally have navigated in business. And so you guys can hear our own stories and I guess our strategies and tips of how we've overcome triumph or how we kind of get through challenges. Because if you're going through it, chances are you're not alone. And most of the time, Shannon and I have been like, we laugh because we're like, oh, we see ourselves in the stories our girls share with us. Like we've definitely struggled with roaring what people think and with judgment. I think that's a massive part of business because you're in business, you either become like you're your own boss, you're a CEO, and usually it's your product or it's your vision or it's your purpose or it's your mission that you're not only getting behind, but it's usually you're the spokesperson for it. You've got to be leading from the front. You've got to be sharing it boldly and loudly. And that can be scary because it means that you're up for scrutiny. Like as much as there's every time you put yourself out there for success, you're also making yourself vulnerable to feedback, both positive and negative. And if you're really worried about what people think, what people are going to say, it can stop you from having that impact and putting yourself forward and sharing your mission. So I know it's a challenge that so many people in business face, especially in the first few years, trying to get their business off the ground. So we thought, let's have a conversation about it. Let's share our own struggles with it, maybe what's helped us get through it.
Yeah, for sure. And I love the cheat sheet because the cheat sheet has 2 of your strategies and 2 of my strategies in detail, which we will be talking about in this episode. But I guess maybe let's start from going all the way back to what it was like when we first started in business. I know for me, I was totally in the closet about network marketing. I reckon for about, oh gosh, it's all a blur now. You were there, Loz. How long do you reckon? Like a year? Was it more than a year?
It was a good 9, I think, because the first 3 months you weren't really even doing business anyway. So I think it was probably 6 months of us actually doing business. I remember one of our mentors sitting us down and we're like, why is our business plateauing? We're not really getting momentum. And we realized it's because we're not actually telling people what we actually do. And then the month that we got out of the closet, I remember our business just went boom.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I started my network marketing business and my friends and family had no idea what I was even doing. And the reason why was because I just didn't tell anyone. I was so scared. I was so afraid of, so many things. Like, first of all, I was afraid of if I failed, like I had told everyone and everyone would have known, I would have felt embarrassed. The second, I guess, thing that was coming up for me was like, what would they think of me? Because I was doing network marketing, there was such a bad stigma around it. And then as well, I think there's a part of every business owner that feels like, well, who am I to go and live my dreams? Who am I to go against the status quo and go and create something more? Who am I to welcome in more abundance in my life? You have that weird thing, that inner mean girl just take over. And so all these fears come up. So yeah, I was totally paralyzed with fear when I first started my business. And my closest friends and actually all my friends, no one knew what I was actually doing until, I'm going to say a solid year afterwards. Everyone was like, oh, that's what you've been doing.
Yeah, I think similar, but for me, I guess when I look at my network marketing business journey, I just didn't believe in network marketing. We've got a couple of episodes in this already, guys. You can go back and revisit this, I guess, what helped us build our belief in the actual profession. But for me, I did tell people what I was doing, and it was people who were telling me, oh, you're a part of network marketing. And I didn't really get it. I'm like, and like, what's the issue? Like, I just knew that I wasn't getting much positive feedback. I wasn't getting any, like, when I was telling people what I was doing, I wasn't getting people excited around me. And I think what I learned really early on wasn't so much that I wasn't telling people, but I wasn't telling people with conviction and belief in what I was doing. So I learned to, I guess for the first 12 months, I was commuting 2 hours a day to my 9 to 5 job in child protection, which was really like an 8 till 6 or 7. But that was 2 hours a day in a car where I was really building my belief in network marketing. So yeah, it wasn't so much like I care what people think, but I didn't realize that people thought negatively on it until I started telling people, and I was like, ooh. So then it started playing into like, well, do I want to be loud and proud about this? Like, why? Like, if I'm going to put myself out there and be louder and prouder, am I just going to get more resistance? So I think it wasn't what stopped me at the start, but as I started, it's definitely what stopped me from having massive momentum at the start, because it's something I was, I guess, challenged with internally as well.
Yeah, and I think it goes with any business. Like, it's not just the network marketing profession, it's anything really.
Yeah, for sure. And so maybe like, what helped you get over it? Like, what helped you? Because I know both of us now have a pretty no F's given attitude. Like, but it's so funny because a lot of the girls look at us and they're like, I can't be like that. I'm like, yeah, but you're comparing a chapter 1 to our 21. So how did we go from those girls to these ones?
I think it's like a magic cake with magic ingredients. Like, there's so many pieces to the puzzle, and there's so many aspects and things that have happened over the years. But like, what comes to mind for me is there's definitely been a lot of challenges that toughen and like thicken your skin up a bit, so you become a little bit more resilient to knockbacks and theoretical punch in the guts. I think as well, like, when you get hurt by people and you cared about what they think, or you thought you cared about what they thought previously, and then you realize like, oh wow, like I cared so much about what that person thought about me, and at the end of the day, like, they've hurt me and that didn't really matter all along. I think scenarios like that. I think as well, like, as you become more successful in your business, you're kind of like, wait a minute, I don't care what you think because I'm crushing it and your opinions don't pay my bills. I think as well, like, building belief in yourself, building belief in the industry, building belief in your product, like, it has a big part of it. I remember this one activity that we did once where our uplines made us write 50 reasons. What was it? 50 reasons why we deserved the next goal. And that's right. And then 50 ways that it will serve the greater world, and just writing down 50 reasons how what you do and what you provide can impact others. You kind of start to realize like, oh, what I'm actually doing is really great, and what I'm actually doing is helping people. And you just over time start to build that confidence. I don't think it happens overnight, hey?
No, and I think that's really important for anyone who's listening in, whether you have your own business or even if you work in sales in general for a corporation, because I know not everyone who listens to this has their own business. Sometimes you just, there's a word for it, like, it's like, they're not called a mini entrepreneur. They're like, there's another word for it, where like you have the entrepreneur spirit in you, but you like being around quirky businesses who are taking on all the risk. Like, you like being around that energy. And I think it's really important, like you said, like whether you're selling a product or a service, usually when you're caring what people think, it's because you don't have belief in what you're selling. So whatever product or service you are selling, do what Shen just said, like write down, get a piece of paper over the weekend and write down, I challenge you 50, awesome, I challenge you do 200. Like, how can your product or service help somebody, or what, like in the process of you sharing it, what are the ripple effects of that going to be? Because when you're proud of what you do, you'll scream it from the rooftops. And usually when you're anxious about what other people think, it's because you're making it about you. Like, what are people going to think about me? And all entrepreneurs are, as we are problem solvers. Your product and service has to solve a problem for somebody. So if you get the focus off you and off your ego and about, well, how can I actually help someone? How's my product or service going to help someone? And you make it other people focused, I promise you it's going to fuel you with the inspiration and the motivation and the passion that you need to be successful in whatever you are, until you may build the confidence in the background.
Yeah, so true. Well, should we dive into our 4 strategies, Lozzie? Maybe you can share one, I will share mine, and then we'll go for tit for tat. Do you want to go first?
For sure. So I think for me, you guys know my background's in psychology, and I wish sometimes I could like put a little microphone in my head so you guys could hear like my inner talk, because it's so analytical. And I think this is what's really helped me in business, because even embarking on like worrying what other people were thinking and being scared of judgment, my inner talk was still like, yeah, but Loz, understand what the psychology is, like understand what's happening here. So for those of you, I think that's a cool thing about business too. A lot of us, when you embark in business, you also embark on a lot of personal development. So most of you guys probably know this. We'll give you a quick little psychology session on the evolution of your brain. But most of us have evolved from apes millions of years ago. And the way that your brain has evolved is it's always looking out for what's going to hurt me, what's going to harm me. Like it just wants to make sure that you're safe at all times. So it's always looking out to make sure that you're not going to get eaten by a saber-toothed tiger, to make sure that you're fitting in with your group so they don't boot you out of the cave so you'll get eaten by the saber-toothed tiger, or you'll freeze in the cold overnight. Like your brain is always wanting to make sure that you're fitting in, because it wants to make sure you're part of something bigger than you, to make sure that you keep safe. So that's normal. And I think most of you probably notice that now. You're always comparing yourself to, what am I doing? What are they doing? Am I fitting in? And in Australia, it's called the tall poppy syndrome. And I have a whole chapter of this actually in my book. It's like we all want everyone to do well, but as long as you don't do too much better than somebody else, because then you become a tall poppy and then people want to cut you back down to fit in with the rest of the poppies in the field. It's just how our psychology works. So you are always going to care what other people think. It doesn't make you insecure. It doesn't make you broken. And so once you kind of take that thing out of it that you keep beating yourself up about why you care so much, and just be like, actually, my brain's just doing its job. Like you don't get angry at your heart for beating, I hope. So don't get angry at your brain for comparing and worrying what other people think, because it's just doing its job. But you've got to be able to break up or separate your brain from you. Like you, your spirit, your mission, your dreams, that isn't actually your brain. Like that's your spirit. Like you are who's actually hearing those voices. If you shut up and you say, Loz, stop talking, you can still hear something going on in your head, right? Like even if you're trying to be quiet, that is your brain doing what it does. You are the bystander hearing it. So I think the first thing that really helped me in overcoming fear and not caring so much about what other people were thinking was first just understanding my psychology and being like, okay, this little voice is never going to go away. I'm never going to not care what people think. I'm never going to not worry what other people are doing. I'm never going to not compare myself to other people. That is your brain. Like if it stops working, you're dead. So having the awareness and the education of how your brain works really helped me just take out my ego and stop making things so personal and stop taking things so personally. And just kind of look at things from a really objective lens rather than kind of feeling like a victim and feeling like everyone was having an attack on me and poor me. So I think that was probably that's what's helped me and probably one of my first tips.
What I want to ask you about that, Loz, is for someone who doesn't have a psychology background, because that makes sense to me. But when we're judging, when we're thinking that people are judging us, or vice versa, like when we're judging people, where does that even stem from? Like what part of our brain is doing that, and why do we do that? Is that just something that's intrinsically like just embedded in our DNA, that we judge others and others judge us?
Yeah, like I said, your brain is always going to be looking out for what's helpful and what's harmful. So it's going to make sure, am I fitting in? Am I doing what society's like encouraging, or am I going to go against the grain and do something that goes against the status quo? So you're always looking out to see if you're fitting in, and same with other people. It's unless you have the education around it and you don't look into it, take it so personally, that's just what your brain does. But I guess that's why we judge people. It's just a survival mechanism. But I guess why we judge people through certain values and through certain lenses ends up being about your own values. So I talk about, like, if you've got a pair of glasses on, let's say you've got red glasses on, and you look at everything, you'll see everything with a red tinge. If I've got green glasses on, I'm going to look at everything with a bit of a green tinge. It doesn't make you or me wrong or right. It doesn't make one of us lying and one of us telling the truth. We're just seeing the world through our glasses. So your glasses are usually tainted by your past experiences and your values. And so all of us have things that have been ingrained in us or told that are important. That usually comes from your culture, your religion, your family traditions. So those things have kind of been implanted in us from a really young age. So if I grew up saying that health was a really big priority and you've got to be healthy as a kid, and my mum never gave me sugar or cordial growing up, if I saw another kid eating sugar, automatically I'm like, oh, that's so bad. That's so bad. Like, that's just an example. So you're automatically judging someone through your values. It doesn't make them right. It doesn't make you wrong. You're just seeing the world through your cultured lens. So later on in life, in business, when people are judging you, it's not so much, like I said, everyone's going to judge. It's how your brain's wired to help you survive. But I guess what they're judging you on is going to be dependent on what their values are, and it's the values they've probably inherited, and what values they've taken on for themselves, what things they deem important. And that's going to differ for everyone. And I think if more people realize that, instead of trying to put themselves in a pedestal and everyone else in a pit, and you were just really grateful for the difference, you wouldn't take judgment so personally, and you'd actually have more gratitude for, like, people who have different passions and people who see the world differently, because that's what makes world and business so colorful and enjoyable and diverse.
Yeah. I really love that. And I would really love to, like, can you think of a specific situation that you can share, like, when that's maybe happened, and sort of like the process, or like I know you're a real analytical thinker.
Yeah.
Like, what's an example of when someone's judged you, and how did you get through that?
Yeah, for sure. So even with my parents, I think about and obviously, guys, I'm talking about network marketing because this was my personal experience with judgment, but this is going to be with anything that you guys are embarking on. So me being an academic and going from a degree, scholarship degree, to a graduate position in government, which had really good salary, and as a young woman, everything you kind of want with maternity leave, like good retirement, good super. When I came across network marketing and I was passionate about it, I know my mum and dad love and support me, but I didn't get their support. They're like, well, and all the success I was having was kind of with a backhanded, yeah, but like, that's not your real job. You're not going to do that forever, right? Like, when are you going to go back and work as a psychologist? Like, isn't that your thing? Like, it really hurt me, because I was like, why can't you see how happy I am? Why can't you see how successful I am? Why can't you see the lifestyle I'm being able to create? The fact that I can be there for you when you have a heart attack, or when you come visit, I can take 3 weeks off work. Like, I was so upset that they couldn't see what I could see. But then I kept coming back to, no, they're just seeing the world through their cultured lens. And you've got to think about, well, our parents, my parents in particular, the generation they grew up in, and I was the first in my family to go to university. So they didn't have even a salary that was high paying, because they didn't have a degree behind them that gave them that. They're not business owners themselves. They're not very entrepreneur. For them, their value is security and stability. And they wanted to make sure that I have a family of my own, I'm going to have maternity leave. They want to make sure when I have a family, or whatever it might be, like I have sick leave. So for them, as much as they love me, they were just seeing me through their experience, and they'd never seen anyone who had had success in network marketing. Their experience of it had been negative. They just heard negative things. They'd never actually tried it themselves. So as much as I could take it, I could not take it so personally. I was like, I know my parents love me and they have their best intentions at heart, but they're just seeing this through their lens of how they view the world and their experiences. I'm different. I'm educated in this. I know what I'm doing. I also know if I keep going down the path that I'm going down, which was in the academic world, it's not going to get me where I want to go. So I was seeing it through my values as freedom, flexibility, being creative, travel. We have different values. My family have never traveled. So hopefully having a bit of a live example helps you guys kind of see how you tease it out when people are throwing shade at you. It's not necessary. It's not usually even to hurt you. Sometimes what hurts the most is people that you care about the most, and they don't mean to hurt you. It's just because they are seeing the world through their lens. And us as humans, we're always going to care what other people think. We're always going to judge. It's how we keep ourselves safe and the ones we love safe. So just not taking it so personally. We're like, hey, this is how my brain actually works, and I love them, and thank you for caring, but I know what I'm doing. And I have different values from you, and I see the world differently.
Awesome. That makes sense.
Hey guys, it is Shani here. I am going to briefly pop in here midway through this episode to introduce a book to you that you've got to put on your must-read list. Have you got a pen and paper ready? It is called The 4-Year Career. It is by Richard Bliss Brooke, one of my mentors. He wrote this book, and I remember reading it when I first started my business, and it just lit a huge fire in my belly to go and chase my dreams and throw everything I have at it and go all in. Now, the book is all about how to make your dreams of fun and freedom come true using the network marketing profession as a vehicle to help you create a passive income. Now, what I love about this book is if you are someone who's been contemplating starting a side hustle, in particular wanting to create a passive income on the side of what you already do, or you've been contemplating joining the network marketing profession, but you're just not sure if it's right for you, this is the book to read, because it is going to teach you so much about the industry and the profession, and it's going to help you make that decision whether it's a full body yes or a full body no. This book will help you make that choice. Now, if you're already in network marketing, you will love this book if you haven't read it yet, because it just builds your belief so much, and it just makes you so proud of being a part of this multi-billion-dollar industry that is called network marketing. So make sure you go to my website, www.shanithompson.com/books, BOOKS, and you'll be able to grab a copy with my story in it. So you'll be able to grab the edition for my company, and my business story is in there on page 111. How convenient. And what I really love about sending these books out to you guys is I always pull a super attractor Gabby Bernstein card for you, and then I write you a sweet little note in the front just for you. So make sure you head over to my website to pick that one up, and free shipping, so why not? All right guys, let's get back to this episode because it is just about to get really awesome.
What about you? What was your tip?
One of my favorite things to do is to just really deconstruct different belief systems. And I've been recently getting really into this because I've been catching my own belief systems and really like going through them with a fine-tooth comb and deconstructing it into tiny little bitty pieces, like figuring out like, okay, where did that belief come from? Why do I have that belief? What's not true about it? And so one of the ones that I had for a really long time, and also a lot that I see with the girls that I work with, is the belief that the more successful I'll become, the more judgment I'll get from those that I love. And honestly, like I went through that. I can think of so many scenarios where, like, yeah, my dad actually was one of the people who really, like, he said a comment at a dinner table once that just totally shut me down. And it was something like, it didn't mean to say it in a nasty way. And we know our parents love us and have the best intentions, but just the way it came across really hurt me. And he said, we're talking about business and we're talking about mine in particular. And he was like, Shani, we don't care about your success. Like, you think your success is so important. Like, just no one cares. And it really hurt because that to me was like, oh, am I like being too loud? Am I like growing too big? Am I like, what am I doing that other, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh my God, what are people thinking? Like, if that's what my dad is thinking and saying, what are other people thinking and saying? And then it was like layers upon layers of different belief systems of like, like, oh, if people see the success that I've had, do they think I'm stuck up, or do they think I'm too good for them? And I always just had this belief that that's what people were thinking. And I try really hard to like dull my shine around people who weren't in the entrepreneurial space, because I just didn't want to be that person who shined too bright. Does that make sense? So it was just like all these fears of judgment, and I was just making all these beliefs up in my head, right? Like it was just me making the story up. So I began to really deconstruct that belief. And one of my favorite things to do to turn a belief around is to find proof of the opposite of that thing. So in this case, where could I find someone who is successful that doesn't have judgment? Or where could I find a situation of a different person where they were loud and they were, very open about their success, but it inspired others and not, it didn't make people feel uncomfortable. So that was my first quest. Like I really got curious about, well, where can I find the proof that this belief is just something I'm making up in my head? And I found some really incredible people that I love to follow, people who have podcasts and books and coaches, and I would just follow them and really study them and the way that they sort of carry themselves. And it just made me realize, like, wow, well, they can do it the other way around, why can't I? But the other thing that I sort of came to realize is that kind of what you just said, Loz, like it's intrinsically in us to judge. Like it's just what our brains do. It's just like a survival thing. And whether you're successful in business or not successful in business, you're always going to be judged. Like, if you are successful, people are going to judge you. They're going to judge how you got that success. They're going to judge how you talk about that success. They're going to judge, the way that you do things. It's just going to happen. And then flip that over. If you're not successful, we're humans. People are going to judge. Like people are going to be like, oh, you didn't do it, or oh, you didn't get there, or you quit, or whatever. People are always going to judge. And so I started to deconstruct that, like, well, whether I'm rich or poor, whether I'm abundant or broke, whether I'm successful or not, people are always going to have their opinion. Like, and being on the other side of success and openly and happily saying that without any concern of judgment, I can truly say that on the other side of success, there has been so much judgment from other people, but I would rather be happy and successful because that feels good and judged, as opposed to not happy, unfulfilled, not successful and still getting judged. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's how like my brain conceptualized that belief.
And it makes so much sense. And it's not just not being judged, but if you're on the other side of success, it's also that tugging at you. You guys know if you're playing small, like if you've got a goal or a vision or something that you know that you're not stepping up, you're not putting yourself in the ring. It's not only like, yeah, like I'm not being judged, but that pain of regret, that annoying little tig at you being like, hey, you're not sharing what you're passionate about. You're not doing what you're here to do. Like that's also a consequence of you getting over judgment. Like you've got to do it. So I think that makes total sense. And I can totally resonate with that as well, Shen. And like just talking about judgment, like even like I remember this is how make it even just simple. Like some people say, oh, I don't judge. Let's say as a woman, if you're walking down a dark alley in the middle of the night and you're by yourself and there's a guy walking up on the other side of the alley and he reeks of alcohol, he's yelling and abusing and swearing, what do you instinctively do, Shen?
You judge. You're like, oh, he's drunk and oh, he's like irresponsible or whatever.
Yeah, most of us girls, especially if you're by yourself, you get out your phone and you pretend to be on the phone or you talk to someone or you cross the other side of the street. And it's because whether it's right or wrong, you've probably been like, oh, he's on drugs, he's on alcohol, he could be violent, I'm scared. And it's not because you're a bad or good person. It's just because you've made a judgment to help with your survival. and you've drawn on past experiences to help keep you safe. So we just judge. It's just how your brain's evolved. You can't stop it, but if you stop making yourself so right and wrong and caring what people think, it's just your brain doing its job. But I think my next tip, which kind of just all this kind of flows on really well, is consulting or like referring to the people that do actually matter. So I always say, try and think, like, look at your hand and look at your 5 fingers. And this is just a really cool way to anchor it in. Who's the 5 people's opinions that you actually do care about? Because everyone's going to give their opinion, like you said, Shan, no matter what you do, whether you're successful or not, someone's going to say something. So you might as well give them something to talk about. But in saying that, like, there's people who I actually do care. It's not like I'm sit there, I'm like, I don't care what you think of me, like I'm invincible. Like, I care what my mum and dad think. Like, I do want to make sure that they're proud of me. Like, what I do kind of reflects them as well. Like, it reflects on their upbringing and what they've taught me. So I care about what my mum and dad think. So I guess I'm asking you guys, when you really think about it, whose opinions really do matter to you? And try and narrow it down to 5. So like I said, for me, it was my mum, my dad, it's my best friend, it's my husband. And when I first started this business, and it still is, it's still Shan, my business mentor, my business partner. And I think it's important because people's opinions don't pay your bills. So this isn't about who pays your bills, but it's who do you actually care how they look at you? Like, you want them to look at you and be proud, or you want them to look at you with love. And just because these 5 people give their opinion, it doesn't always mean that I take it on board either. So this idea is about, like, when you find yourself at a crossroads, when you find yourself conflicted, maybe when you find yourself at the other end of some negativity or some judgment, and you need to check in, it's good to have people around you who can reflect back to your bullshit and maybe tell you whether that judgment is true or not. Like, none of us are perfect. And I think it's really important to make sure you're surrounding yourself with an inner circle of people who believe in you, who have your best interests at heart, and aren't just going to tell you things because they want to tear you down, and they're going to tell you things that are in your best interests. So, like, that's what I said. So when I come across things, like, they're the 5 people that I consult for their opinion, for their feedback, for their advice. And like I said, doesn't always mean that I take it on board either, because you've got to remember, who do you want to emulate? Like, when you're looking for advice, you're looking for judgment, I always think about, I would never take advice from a broke, unhappy person. Like, you don't go get a haircut from someone who's got this really shitty haircut. Like, you probably wouldn't even walk into the store. So many of us are giving our power away, and we're taking advice from people that we wouldn't even want to, if you don't want to swap positions with them, you don't want their life, stop taking life advice from them. And it's usually the broke, unhappy, unsuccessful people who are sick often and whining about bullshit, who are way too happy to throw their 2 cents in on everything and throw judgment and throw shade. And I personally know anyone who I want to emulate, anyone who I know is successful, anyone who I look up to, that's not how they act. Anyone who I know has truly had success or abundance, they're the people who usually turn around and they put their hand down and they pull you up there with them. Like, they want to share with you what works. They want to help you. If they give you feedback, it's usually constructive feedback. It's not to tear you down. So I just keep thinking, when people throw judgment, it usually says more about that person than it says about you. And they're usually seeing the world through their values. But it's also, a lot of the time, it's because you are outgrowing them. The level of self-sabotage you're experiencing right now is usually a direct reflection to how much time you're spending with people who no longer share the same values as you, or see your growth as unacceptable, and you're making them feel uncomfortable. So make sure you're consulting those 5 people really regularly and being like, well, like, those opinions, like, do I want to emulate how they're showing up? So for an example, when my mum and dad give advice on business, like, I love their advice. I always will listen, but I'm going to know where I'm more educated. Like, they've never been in my position. They don't have a network marketing business. They haven't spent probably 100 hours researching the profession to have an educated opinion on it like I have. So as much as I value their opinion, I don't let it change mine. So I think really look at your 5 people and think about, do these people have my best interests at heart? It's not necessarily about them saying always what you want to hear either. These people love you enough to tell you straight when you maybe need to be pulled back in line. So I think, looking at the people that you're taking advice and opinions from, or opinions, does that make sense? Looking at the people who you take advice from and actually consult whose opinions actually matter, and don't take it all on.
Yeah, and I think as well, what's that saying, Loz? You are the average of the 5 people you hang around most.
Yeah, and that's science. It's not woo-woo. It's actually like that's who you end up becoming.
Yeah, that was a really good one. I love that. I definitely love that saying as well. The opinions of others don't pay my bills, because they don't. Oh my gosh, they so don't.
Not Imagine if you got like $5 for everyone who ever judged you. Imagine how rich we'd all be.
I know. Oh my gosh. And then we'd get even more judgment and more rich.
Woohoo! Money bubble.
Well, I think we could wrap up maybe on my last one, which is at the end of the day, when I go to sleep at night and I close my eyes, the thing that allows me to sleep is knowing that I've lived my life aligned with my highest values. And at the end of the day, that's the most important thing. And what I love about this is when you distinguish what your top values are, like what you love to do, what lights you up, what sets your soul on fire, what your purpose is, what your vocation is, what your vision is, when all of that comes together and you've lived life in aligned with those things, then you're doing good in the world. You're showing up 100%. You know that you have no bad intentions, and you're just here to have a beautiful human experience, because that's what we're all here for. But we're also here to live out what we're here to do on this planet. And like some of my highest values are things like being in nature, hanging out with family and friends that I love. It's now like playing with my dog. It's making sure that I look after myself and exercising and meditating and doing all the things that fill my cup up. And because they're my highest values, and because I live those things every single day, and I'm not living a life of someone else's values, then I know that whatever I do is good, and it's going to be good for me. And when I'm fueled and I'm feeling inspired and I'm feeling aligned, then I can serve other people. And so at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what anyone says about me or to me. It really doesn't bother me, because you kind of touched on it before. And one of my new favorite sayings, what Sally says about Susan says more about Sally than Susan.
Yeah.
It's so true, right? Because when someone says something about you, it is just their own inner shit that they haven't dealt with yet. And we all do that. We're not saying that, like, I'm not perfect. Like, I definitely catch myself having little moments of like thinking, oh, why is that person doing that? And why would she say this? And, oh, that's not cool. And then I'm like, Shani, at the end of the day, they're your values, they're your glasses and your lenses that you're seeing through. Just live life aligned with your highest values, and then you know that you're doing what you're meant to do.
And I think I love that. And I think you can probably back me up with this. I think the more time I spent in business, the more time we've been fortunate enough to spend with successful people, happy, abundant people just don't spend time judging others. Like we've got more important shit to worry about. Like, we want to help people. And I love the quote that says, great minds discuss ideas, average minds discuss events, and small minds discuss people. And I think the more that you guys are aware of this, and you don't judge yourself, or when you, like I said, sometimes it's innate, but you catch yourself when you are and you just let it go. You start surrounding yourself with people who are above that as well. And then your vibe just keeps raising higher. You're surrounding yourself with more happy, influential people. Like, it really is a trickle effect. A trickle effect? Is that a word? A ripple effect? I love making up words, man. But yes, like, I think just that sums it up really nicely. Just get really clear on what your values are. Live in alignment with them. Don't take things so personally. Care more about your mission than what other people think. And just stay in your own lane. Like, lift people up. If you've got something to say that's positive, say it. If it's not, then just keep it to yourself. Like, the world doesn't need any more bad jujus.
Totally. And you know what? Come hang out with us a little bit more, and we promise by the time you finished hanging out with us, you won't give a shit about what anyone thinks, because our vibe will just rub off on you.
Yeah. Well, that was fun. I hope that served any of you guys tuning in who may be struggling with this. And like I said, this this has been a journey for us. I think we worked out, this is our coming up to our at the end of our nearly 5th year in business.
It's my 5-year anniversary next month, so yours is around the corner.
Yeah, I think mine's March next year. But yeah, I just think it doesn't happen overnight, but if you are surrounding yourself with people who challenge you to think differently and play bigger, it makes it so much easier. So seek out support, seek out mentorship, seek out communities that raise you up instead of pulling you down. Especially in Australia, we are so good at the tall poppy syndrome.
Totally.
Outgrow those poppies, girlfriend. You can do it.
And if you want to go back through everything that Loz and I just spoke about, make sure you download the cheat sheet guide. You can get it from babesinbusiness.net/podcast/55. And that way you can have it as a little cheat sheet in your diary around your workspace, so that anytime you're feeling those feelings of judgment, or even, you're feeling like someone's making you feel bad, you can just look over our notes and just remind yourself how amazing you are.
Wow, what an amazing episode. I hope you're feeling inspired after that conversation and empowered to make some changes and choices in your life. Now, don't forget to let us know if you loved this episode. Please give us a 5-star review. It really helps us know that we're on track with serving you guys, and also majorly supports our channel. And you may even be in the running to be the shout out of the week. Every week on Instagram, we share one of our reviews with our network. So please be sure to leave your Instagram handle or your website in your review so we can share you with our amazing community. If you head over to the link in our bio on Instagram @BabesTalkingBusiness, you can get access to so many of our goodies, including the link to our bib shop. It's a crazy cute online merchandise shop that donates 100% of profits to a non-for-profit charity every month. So head over and check out who we're donating to this month and get yourself something super cute to wear. You can also find in our Instagram bio our books. You can get your hands on 𝗦𝗢𝗔𝗟𝗦 by 𝗦𝗢𝗔𝗟𝗦 or The 4-Year Career with Shani Thompson. Both super easy reads and incredible books to help you expand and evolve in even deeper ways. Now, don't forget to head over to the show notes. You can check out any of the links or the books or the references we mentioned in this episode. And before we go, we just want to say thanks so much for being here, for committing to being the best version of you, and for showing up for you today. You are freaking amazing. Now, if you think that there is someone in your life that could really benefit from this episode, while you're feeling super inspired, please hit the share button and send them this episode right now. And the reason we're asking you to share the love is because you get what you give. And the more that you give and inspire, the more you get in return. Head over to www.babestalkingbusiness.com to check out all of our other podcasts. And we just want to say we are sending you so much love, and we hope to see you soon.